See, it's stuff like this that gives me trust issues.
Welcome to the Trust Issues podcast. We have trust issues with the traditional society-dictated path, with the status quo, with the whole get an education, land a job, and work tirelessly until you're 6 feet under. It's time to upgrade your life with the help of us. I'm Erika.
And I'm Kyle Auckland. We're a husband and wife duo, but we're also entrepreneurs, biohackers, and business builders.
Every week, we're dedicated to having purposeful conversations with each other and leading experts on topics like wellness, relationships, and entrepreneurship.
Subscribe to Trust Issues Podcast if you're looking for bold topics, honest dialogue, and valuable lessons. All right, welcome to another episode of Trust Issues Podcast. And today, it's an exciting episode because we are talking about Dawson's birth story.
Yeah, our son.
And how it all came together.
Yeah. How it all happened, how it all transpired. And this episode, I'm super excited because when it airs, we're also in the same week. We're going to be airing this episode with Karen Welton from Pain Free Birth.
Oh, so
and she's phenomenal. I actually took her course preparing for birth. And I want to share a little bit about that too, how I prepared for birth, because I had a home birth, I had a natural birth. And Karen Welton gives so many amazing tangibles on if you are someone who wants to have a natural physiological birth. She shares so much wisdom in her episode. So you're going to really love that one. Yeah. So let's get started.
Let's get into it.
I guess we can talk a little bit. I just want to talk a little briefly about how I prepared for my birth, because I do get so many questions on this.
Yeah, no, you do.
And so just a little backstory. We were not planning on getting pregnant at the time when I found out I was pregnant. We weren't trying. It was kind of like an oops thing. We kind of knew it was possible. We were playing with fire a little bit, but we did not expect it to happen the way that it did.
Well, we kind of got to a point where we were like, if it happens, it happens. Who cares?
Yeah.
We were like,
but we were not like, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
We were like, well, if it happens, well, then it's God's plan.
That's right.
But so I find out I'm pregnant on Mother's Day, 2021, and take a pregnancy test. We're there with Kyle's family. We actually had gone to visit your family to surprise them for Mother's Day. And I was super tired. My boobs were feeling super sore and big. I was like, what's happening? And my sister-in-law's like, I promise you're pregnant. I'm like, there's no way I'm pregnant. I can't be pregnant. There's no way. And you're at your parents' house.
I was at my parents' house.
I'm with my sister-in-law. They all live in Florida. So we're minutes away from each other down the street. And she's like, let's go to CVS and get a pregnancy test. So I
had no idea this was happening.
No idea. I didn't even text you because I was like, there's no way I'm going to be pregnant. So what's the point of me? So I go, I'm in her bathroom. I'm peeing on her, on this stick, sitting on this stool in her bathroom. And she's outside the door, can I come in? Sure, come in. And it says pregnant. I see this I literally couldn't even believe it. I screamed. She screamed. I was like, what is happening? I ended up taking 5 more pregnancy tests because I was certain it was wrong.
It's yeah, this is wrong. This is wrong.
And so we get in the car and I didn't text you. I didn't say anything. And she was like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. We get there. She goes and gets you. You come out to the car and I show you the pregnancy test. But it was really that day. It was that exact day. And, I hadn't spent a ton of time thinking about giving birth. I hadn't spent a ton of time thinking about becoming a mom, to be honest. It wasn't something I really actively planned in my mind, or we didn't really talk a ton.
We didn't talk a ton about that. We didn't even really plan it. We were always just maybe one day, we'll have kids, but maybe next year we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
It was always that next year we'll talk about it, or 6 months we'll talk about it.
We were kind of checking in with each other every 6 months or so, I would say. We would just be do you want to have kids now? Should we wait? And we were both kind of it's almost like God was, no, this is happening now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because we got pregnant, even though despite the fact that we kept saying 6 months from now, or how about a year from now? We kept pushing about it. Yeah. God was like, no, this is happening now. So we found out we're pregnant, and it was immediately in that moment that I honestly just felt in my spirit, I want to have a home birth. And with a lot of the stuff that we have gone through ourselves with our own health journey and our own journey of learning how to take care of ourselves and just learning about biohacking and just really what our bodies are capable of, it just felt very in alignment of what our life is and what we believe.
What we already practice. And
I just felt very safe in my body, and I knew that I would feel safest at home. And I our home is our haven, and I love being here. And I knew that I would not feel safe in a hospital. And that's personally my story. I know every single person has a different story. And there's no, like, in my opinion, there's
right
no like right or wrong way to do birth. I mean, I think you just have to know the risks either way, whether you're in a home setting or in a hospital setting, just having yourself empowered with information. But I just knew for me that the way that I was going to thrive in a birthing environment was going to be at home in a quiet place with a few people that I trusted, in a place that felt safe for me. And I mean, physiologically, there's actually something called the law of the sphincter. And I learned this in all of the research that I've done about birth. And it's basically the idea of like, you know, we're just going to go there. But like, if you ever have, you know, if you're in a public bathroom and you're like, you can't pee because you're just like hearing all the commotion outside the door. Or, you know, it's like anytime you're in a fight or flight moment, like all of your sphincters in your body actually tense up. So that's the same for birth. And the birthing canal is a sphincter. And so it opens and closes. And when you are in that environment that feels the safest for you, you're going to have a more physiological birth. You're going to have a more natural birth. So I just knew, I was like, okay, I want this to be at home. So I presented that to you. You were pretty supportive. And I pretty much immediately called the midwife and was like, I got to get on your books. I knew they had a wait list. And then we started preparing for birth. When
you like approached me with that, I knew as soon as you told me you were pregnant and we'd be going down that road of how we want to go about this, I knew I wanted to support you right away, no matter what choice you made, because this is something that like you were personally going to go through with your body. So it's like, I know if that was me, I would almost want that choice to be like, this is where I'm going to feel the most comfortable. Can you support me? And if there's any kickback, we can talk about it or anything like that. So like immediately when you were like, I really want to do a home birth, I was like, okay. And even just how you approached me with it, I knew how serious you were about it. It wasn't like, I want to do a home birth because it's something that could be cool. Like it was this is how I feel the most supported, the safest. I've already started researching it. And that's where I was like, I want to support you. I want to start learning about it. I want to get on the same page. It's like,
and that was everything, your support, because you have such an important role. You know, the spouse has such an important role. Like you were there with me every step of the way as we were preparing for birth, during birth, post-birth, postpartum, like every step of the way you were there. And I think that's something that every woman wants, is like to have their partner truly supportive. And it feels very, very comforting to have that. And, you know, with the preparation of birth specifically, we started doing, you know, we called the midwife. You went to every single appointment with me, my midwife. And so we were able to be there for every single part of it. And then we started doing, you know, some of our kind of exercises to get things open. So like there's different stretches you can do, side lying release, like releasing tension in your pelvic floor, in your hip flexors. We did this rebozo thing where
it started pretty quick too, where like as soon as you really started to kind of show, that's when we started doing a lot of the exercises and work.
We really did try to start in the beginning, because really like your body needs to be able to open in order to have a comfortable pregnancy as well as like a good birth. So we did this rebozo thing. It's like another thing where there's like a blanket around your stomach and I'm on all fours and you kind of like wiggle. It's the craziest thing. And then we did the inverted like the inversions. So I would like go inverted to just like create some more space. And it also helps with the baby's positioning. So we did all of that. And then we took a course together, the pain-free birth course.
Yes, it was so good.
And honestly, I feel like that was so empowering to me, because I watched like hundreds of birth videos. I had you watch some birth videos with me. And not to mention, I also listened to a ton of podcasts around natural birth, the Happy Home Birth podcast. I think it's called that. We'll make sure we get that. But it's such a good podcast. There's so many other, the home birth show or the birth show, I think. We're going to get all those links to everyone. But we literally, I just like fed my mind with all this positivity on what birth was going to be for me to create that story. Because you can have fear or you can have trust and faith. And I chose to have faith in my body and faith in the process of like, my body knows what to do. And taking that course together was just more of the logical part of it. Like I did the physical preparation. We did a lot of emotional preparation by having conversations with each other and talking about, you know, the whole thing. But then logically and mentally learning about how my body was going to go through transition and how it was going to feel, like all of that was so important and pivotal. So that was the preparation. If you guys have any other questions, please just message me on Instagram or on the Trust Issues podcast, and I'd be happy to answer them. But, you know, I think everyone has to go through their own journey and preparation. But I would say, like, that was so important because it's like, if you're going to go through an Olympic event, you're going to train for it.
Yes.
And like you being in the fitness world, it's like, you're not going to go, we've done how many competitions together in CrossFit?
Countless. Yeah.
It's like, if you don't prepare and you show up on game day, you're going to be a deer in headlights and things will go wrong because you haven't prepared. I truly believe I had the birth that I wanted because I prepared. I prepared mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. I prepared in every way that I could. And there was things that didn't go exactly the way that we imagined them to go, because that's life and that's human. That's just like human nature. But we prepared, and that was so key.
Well, and even to the extent where I think it's easy, especially for, you know, for men or husbands to kind of sit on the back burner a little bit, because you're like, oh, this is, you know, my wife or spouse is going through this. This is kind of her body. This is like her challenge. I'll be there for support, of course. But I was literally like, and this kind of even opened up after we talked to Karen with Pain-Free Birth, where it was like, your job as the spouse too is to be there to advocate. Even those intense moments where, like, if you feel like, you know, maybe something's wrong or you're so uncomfortable.
Because you can't advocate for yourself.
When you're going through that just intense emotion, like, you can't have just conversations or I remember in those moments it was like very, very, very intense. And it was like, I've even told you this before, where, like, you know, the doula was sitting there with you, and I knew just like a gut reaction moment where I was like, I have to move her because I need to be there with her right now. Because, like, I could tell you needed me in that moment.
And
like,
that's a good doula. A good doula is someone that is going to, like, support you in that 100%. Role, you know?
But if I didn't go through some of that stuff with you and did my own research as you were doing it and learning as we went, I probably wouldn't have been as in tune to those moments to be like, right. This is my job. I need to be there doing that. I need this. So,
and just on the point of, like, choosing your providers, I think that two things. Number one, I had to meet them in person. I had to feel that the vibe was right. So we did choose to have our midwifery here in Nashville. There's a midwife that comes as well as a nurse. Yeah. And then I also chose to have a birth doula. So, and then there was you. So really that was the birth team. Midwife, nurse, doula, Kyle. Like,
and
husband.
Everyone was excellent. It was
everyone was phenomenal. And so the two things were, for me, where I need to meet them in person and make sure that the vibe is right. I need to make sure that there's an energy match, because when you're such a vulnerable state, you want to make sure that every person in that room is going to be able to hold space for you and that you feel safe with them. Yeah. And that was another issue that I felt in going into a hospital setting. It's like, I don't want to have a random nurse that I don't know. I don't want to have a random doctor that I don't know. Like, I want to know who my birth team is, because I'm entrusting my body and my baby in these people's hands. And then the second thing is just experience and knowing that they have a significant amount of experience, that they know. And we have such a reputable midwife that we work with here in Nashville. I had several friends that worked with them prior. And I mean, their history was literally decades of birthing babies and working in hospital settings as well. So they knew that and had a very good relationship with our local hospitals. And so that made me feel really safe. So that's one thing, if you're listening and you're trying to figure out, like, should I have a doula? How do I find a midwife? You want to meet people. You're really interviewing them. You're 100%. Interviewing your birth team. You're making sure that this is the right fit for you and for your family, and you trust them. Yeah. So I think that's number one, but then also, what is their experience? What is their, their past history with what they have done themselves? And that is going to be two really important things. But I ultimately just also went off of intuition so often. Like, it was so intuitive for me. I just felt like that's one thing I think I've learned so much in getting pregnant, going through birth, becoming a mom, is that my intuition is actually so much more powerful than any other doctor's advice or any provider's advice. Like, my intuition's never been wrong. And I think sometimes we don't trust that. And I just want to encourage any person who's listening to trust whatever your intuition is. Like, your body, your baby, what your body needs, and you should advocate for that.
Yes. And even 100%, because that, I feel like literally God gave each person that ability to feel those emotions and go through times where it's like you have to listen to your gut.
Like that's all you have.
Yeah, like you literally have to pay attention to that. And even like touching back with the midwife team where it's like, I think that was literally the first time where I met someone in their industry where like they are so obsessed with what they do. Where it was like from day one we started working with them, it was like they had such a calmness about them. They had, at the same time, their energy was so good, and like they were truly like they felt like family because they were like more excited at moments than like even we were. Because like if there was something we didn't know what was going on, and they were still like, oh my word, like this is happening, like, you know, it was like they were truly obsessed with their craft.
Yeah. So let's get into the birth story.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, so this is like where the juicy details come. So I was 41 weeks and 5 days pregnant. Okay. So I was past my due date, which if you didn't know this as a listener, the average first time mom goes into labor 8 days past their due date. Yeah. And oftentimes due dates can be incorrect, just so that you know, depending on what your cycle is. And so I never thought I was going to go into labor before my due date. I worked out right up until my due date. I was in the gym. I was trying to move every day. That really kept me feeling really good, honestly, and also good mentally. But definitely once the due date hits, you're kind of in this mental game and this mental battle of at any moment it can happen. Like, when's it going to happen? And especially as a first time mom, you don't know, is it going to be fast and furious? Is your water going to break in the middle of a grocery store? Like, you're just imagining all of these things. But for me, it was us sitting exactly how it was supposed to be, right?
It was, yes.
Literally you and I sitting on the couch as we did every single night pregnant. I'll just give a shout out to Kyle because every single night in my pregnancy, Kyle rubbed my feet. Every single night for 42 weeks, basically.
I still do it.
And you still do. So you literally were rubbing my feet. We're laying on the couch. And then I had gone to go and get a cervical sweep because I actually elected to get that. So just to back it up a little bit, I had the stress test. Everything was great. And we were still just cooking. Baby was comfortable in there. And we'd kept the gender a surprise. So we had no idea who we were going to meet. And we elected to go and get an ultrasound just to see how's everything going in there. Where is baby at? Baby's head down. Everything's he's engaged and everything. Well, we found out it was a boy afterward, but baby's engaged. And I was like, you know what? I kind of want to see like if a cervical sweep would help, like just to move things along. So my midwife did that. She's amazing. I know there's definitely risk with her cervical sweep, but she did it really, really gentle, and it felt hardly like anything at all. Yeah. And I think it was like 2 days later I went into labor. Yeah. So we're on the couch. I hear this pop sound and I'm like, what's happening? What is that? I go to the bathroom. I lose some of the mucus plug. But you have to share your part of this because this is so funny because you did the course with me. Yeah. And because we talked so much about birth, like you knew that would be
the process and how things would go or whatever. And it was 10:30 at night. You went into the bathroom and I remember sitting there on the couch and I was like, is this it? Like, is this happening? And then you're like,
I'm like calling out to you.
You're like, there's something in the toilet. And I was like, that's the mucus plug.
You were like, so
I was like, and I stood up. I was like, it's happening. I was like, it's happening. I was like, I started almost like nervous, like panicking because I was like, okay, oh my word. I'm like game face. Like, you know, this is it. Like, so it's like, and then it just kind of went from there. So we immediately went into like, okay, let's calm down. Like, let's
go get ready for bed.
Yeah, let's get ready for bed. Like, set everything up. Like, let's go upstairs.
And we had already, because we knew we were having a home birth, we had already had everything set up in our home.
And ready.
So we were given a list of everything we needed to have, all of our supplies and everything. So we had all of that ready. There's a specific way you need to prep the bed and all that stuff. So that was already done. Mm-hmm. So 10:30 hits. I lose my mucus plug. I'm like, ooh, I'm feeling things, things are starting. It felt like almost like I was getting crampy, like as if you have period cramps. And then we were like, let's head up to bed and let's go to bed. So we try to get ready for bed and I start having contractions, but my contractions were not chill contractions. They weren't every 20, 30 minutes or so, as they say that they'll probably start and they'll be like, maybe 30 minutes apart. Yeah. No, that was not my labor. So I had contractions right from the get-go, 3-4 minutes apart. Yeah. And they were intense. And I'm a very high pain tolerance person.
You are.
I really do not have a low threshold. Like, I was preparing for this, and I am also a previous like athlete, so I know how to go to the pain cave. I know how to dig deep, and I know how to turn my crazy brain off and just drop in. And I was feeling like, whoa, is it supposed to be this tense already? Because this is really intense.
Because this was in like literally like the first 2 hours.
It was like the first 2 hours.
First 2-3 hours, you started getting some intense. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my word, I'm like, she's going to have this kid in like 3-4 hours. Like the way it was like ramping up so quick. Yeah. So then
that did not happen.
And then our doula came over next.
So we texted the doula. Yeah. We said, okay, I think you should come over. I don't know. And I was getting super nauseous.
Yeah.
I threw up a bunch, which we had made like this delicious like chicken, rice, mushroom, like delicious bowl of yummy goodness. It's the wintertime. It's January. That all came out in the toilet. I threw up so much. And I wanted to get in the tub. Immediately wanted to get in the tub. Yeah. So we got the tub running. I get in the tub. We've got the red light on. We've got some music on. I've got my hypnotherapy audio playing. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going inward. And I'm just like allowing these surges to come and allowing them to like crash over my body. And it was intense. And she comes over and she's like, I think you got a long way to go.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well, if you want to go nap, she kind of like went to the other room, and I was like, okay, well, if I need you, I'll let you know, but I'll just like hang, and I'll try to hang out in this. And I tried to get out of the tub to go take a nap and go to sleep, and I never napped that night. No. I don't think I slept more than maybe 30 minutes. And I
mean, I couldn't either. It was like, if you were like that, I was like, I'm not sleeping. I can't.
And I immediately got out of bed again and wanted to go back in the tub, and over the course of the whole night, I really spent the majority of my night in the tub. And I remember I was on my phone and I was tracking contractions, and I was watching, the time between, and now I'm 3 minutes apart, and now and it was intense, and I'm feeling like all sorts of things. So we call the midwife comes over with the nurse. They're so excited. It's happening, baby's coming. I'm like, I know, this is crazy. And she checks me, and I'm only like 3 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, first of all, don't ever tell me my dilation ever again. I don't want to know, because that really gets you in your head.
It does.
And for me, that was something I wanted, like, ignorance is bliss. Like, I didn't want to know. I'm like, don't tell me. So she never told me again what I was at. But what I was feeling versus what I was dilated at was tripping me up for sure, because I was not progressing to the point that I thought I was going to be. And it was intense. It was super intense.
Because it was almost like, oh, you're like pushing pretty early, and you're obviously still not.
Well, I wasn't pushing yet.
No, but it was like the natural, like,
like my body was moving
reacting along. Yes, it was just like going through, and I was like, that's where I was like, oh, this is gonna kind of happen pretty quick. But then when she told us you were only like 3 centimeters or so, I was like, oh man,
we have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go.
So we are like moving different spots. And that was one thing that I will say, being at home and being able to just move. I had made Labor Aid. So I had made a Labor Aid that I was so excited to have, which was like coconut water. It was some fresh squeezed lemon juice. It was some electrolytes, pinch of salt. There's even like this homeopathic tincture that I put in there just for pain and for calmness. And every time I drank it, I threw it all up. So I didn't drink any of my Labor Aid. I was so excited. I was like, man, I have all this Labor Aid. I had snacks for labor, couldn't eat any of it.
Yeah.
At one point, my midwives were giving me spoonfuls of honey just so that I could have some sustenance, which was such a beautiful thing too. I will say, it's like, you are an Olympic event. Like, you are literally, your body is being pushed to limits that you've never experienced before. And being able to nourish yourself in that experience is so important.
It's like an ultra marathon.
And that was something, it's like a marathoner. They have like those little packs of gel that they're taking, to get that carbohydrate. They're getting, their electrolytes. They're doing those things to hydrate to make sure that their body is sustained. This is something that I get really passionate about, because I know in a lot of hospitals, they don't want you to eat. They don't want you to eat at all once labor starts, because essentially they're preparing you for a potential surgery if you have to go to an emergency C-section, which makes sense. But, what could the outcomes be if you were able to nourish yourself, if you were able to have that during labor? I don't know. But for me, I will say that it was very pivotal, and it was very much like I would get a surge of energy with spoonfuls of honey. So I'm having that, but I will say that I was moving a lot. So I would be in the tub, I'd go sit on the toilet, I had my birthing ball. I would lean over the ball any way that I could kind of get comfortable. And a lot of people ask me, you know, you didn't have any pain medication. There's no pain medication. No, that's physiological birth. There's no pain medication. Yeah. And a lot of people also ask, was it painful? And I can truly say that birth was not painful, except two things. One, when I was experiencing back labor. So I didn't experience back labor the whole time, but it was when, you know, when your baby is moving down the birth canal, your baby actually has to do all these rotations. The baby knows to do this, which is absolutely wild. Like, God is real. This baby knows to just move down and do all these twists and turns to basically find its way out of the birthing canal, tuck through the pelvis. It's literally insane. But when he was rotating, I could literally feel him rotating in me. And it was almost like my body innately knew, like, okay, move this way, like move that way. And I would just listen to whatever my body needed. So that freedom of movement, you know, even just being in the shower, or if I needed to be on the birthing ball, if I wanted to be sitting on the toilet, it allowed me to just work with my baby. And it allowed us to have this like constant communication, because I could feel him, he could feel me, and we were just moving together. And so the part that was painful was when I felt back labor, and the way that he was positioned in that moment was, I think he was rotating and turning, and it was just like firing up my lower back like crazy. Yep. And that's when I wanted to be in the shower, and I literally wanted to be in the shower to have the water directly on my lower back, and that was my pain reliever. Another method that a lot of times you'll see in home births or in physiological births is the comb. So you can actually take a comb, and it's almost like tricking your brain to distract from the discomfort or the pain that you might be feeling here, you know, in your lower half. You actually can squeeze the comb whenever that surge comes, and it can help distract you from that. That didn't actually work for me. I didn't really like it. It felt like really intense. And so I didn't like vibe with that. Yeah. What worked really well for me was being in the water, was moving a ton, and using the water on my back. So that was that. And then the fetal ejection reflex started kicking in.
Yeah.
And so I actually have the timeline pulled up. My doula was amazing, and she wrote the times for everything. So she wrote that she showed up at 1 a.m. 1:45, things were pretty intense. That's what I said. Contractions 3 minutes apart. I threw up a few times. 2:30, I think that's when the midwife arrived. She checked me, and that was 3 to 4 centimeters, super thin. And I also had a cervical lip. So one side of my cervix was not like melting away as it's supposed to create space for the baby.
So crazy.
And it was because of, we found out later, is the position, which we'll get to that. But the position that my son was in, that my child was in, was extra challenging. So I had a cervical lip. So she would have me kind of moving side to side, laying on one side to try to melt that cervix. 3:45 a.m., things seemed to be a little less intense. So things were slowing down a little bit. I got into bed around 4 a.m., got cozy. They let me rest for a little bit. Around 5:30, I got up to pee. I had to pee. I remember, that's one thing too. So I remember needing to pee so bad, but I couldn't.
Like you had to pee.
I couldn't pee. And I was like crazy over it. I'm like, I just want to pee. It was so crazy, because they say that if you empty your bladder, it also really does help with pain. Yeah. So I remember I finally got to pee. It was around 5:30. 6:30, contractions really started to pick up. And that was when they were every 2 minutes. Then I was dilated to 5 centimeters at 8:15 a.m. So remember, I started having contractions around 10:30, 11 p.m. So it's 8:15 a.m. I'm 5 centimeters. 9:15, I'm 6 centimeters. And 9:30 a.m., I remember laying in the tub. And at this point, I've been in the tub 90% of the night. Yeah. So it's 9:30 in the morning.
We didn't even have any hot water. We had to literally, like, doulas. We were coming down and like almost boiling water, like filling it up to boil it, and then we'd carry up pots and we were dumping it in.
I kept saying, like, I'm freezing.
Yeah, we need a warmer. So we had like towels on top of you that we kept soaking, keep them warm, and then we were literally boiling water and then bringing it up and like kind of diluting it into the tub to make sure you I was like, I needed to be warm, and I wasn't. Which is interesting too, because a lot of women say that they're so hot in labor, but I was cold. You were.
I
like
wanted.
The whole time.
I'm like, my body was like going through it and I wanted to be warm, which is very interesting, which I love to be warm. I'm totally like a lizard in the heat. Like I want to just like bake in the sun. So that's interesting for me to think, but that's how it worked for me. And then I remember I was in the tub and it was 9:30 that my water broke. And that's when the fetal ejection reflex kicked in. And so this is the fetal ejection reflex. So little fun fact, you almost never have to be told to push in labor. I mean, if you are having a physiological birth and if you're not numbed, you will get to a point that you feel like you can't not push. And that's what happened for me. So not everyone has this reflex, as I've been told. And you can also hear more on the episode that we did with Karen because she talks more about this. But the fetal ejection reflex is essentially your body is contracting in a way that it's actually working to push baby down. So the hormones, it's like a beautiful cocktail of hormones that mix together and all the things. And then your baby is now being pushed by your own body. So I never had to be told to push. I never had to be told like, okay, it's time to push now. Like get your legs up. I got to a point where my body was doing it for me. But it was the craziest thing because what we ended up finding out later was my son had both of his hands. So Dawson's hands were over his face like a cross. Dude. Like literally, of course. I come to find out too, Karen told me that that's one of the most difficult births. Yeah. Of course. And so both of his hands were on his face, which was causing just such an intense contraction. And also it was impacting how he was coming down the canal. So it's almost like my body was just like, okay, bro, like it's time to get out of here. Like you got to get out of here. We got to move you along. And it was pushing and pushing. And so every like 2 minutes, like it felt like the feeling that you're throwing up, but opposite. Instead of up, it's going down. Oof. And you remember when it started kicking off and I was like, what's happening? Yeah. It was just a whole... I had known about the reflex because of all the like the birth videos I'd watched and stuff. So I knew that it was possible, but I just didn't think, I was like, okay, I guess I'm this is happening. Like it's happening to me. Being our first child and like you can do all the classes, you can do all the research, you can do the things you need to do to like understand what's happening. But like in the moment, it kind of, I don't want to say it all goes out the window, but like you're like, what is happening at this moment? Like you think things are going to be further along and then they aren't. And then stuff starts happening. And even like, remember like 9:30 when this stuff started happening, obviously like we looked outside and like the sun was up. Yeah, the sun and I remember up. Being like, oh boy, like I remember when I saw the sun come up, I got super discouraged. So did I. Like because we had like red lights on all night, so like we were like so distracted, we had the blinds shut, and then all of a sudden like we were in our little cozy cave. Yeah, like the sun was up and I remember like looking out the window and like seeing people on their morning walks and you're just like, help, like we're like in our own world, like what's happening, you know? It's like true. Yeah, I was like, oh my goodness, you know. Well, and I even remember one time like looking at my midwife and saying, I don't know if I can do this. Yeah. Can I do this? And she looks at me and says, so calmly, you are doing this. Yeah. And her calmness like shook me. It snapped me out of it because I had a moment of weakness where my mind was getting in the way and my mind was playing games with me. And she was like, snap out of it. And my nurse was so strong too in that way. I felt like my nurse was my coach too. Yeah. Like she was a sports coach in another life. She was like, get your head in the game. You are doing this. This is happening. And it was like when they commanded me like that, I was like, okay, you're right. Like I know what I'm doing. My body is doing it. And it was me trying to run from it instead of just like drop in and like be where I'm at with what my body's giving me right now. Well, and this goes all the way back to the beginning of the story where it's like, that moment right there, that's why it's so important to meet with your midwife, to find the right person that fits. All that prep work we did, like meeting people, like calling different doulas, different midwives, that moment where the flip switched, it's like, that's where like, oh, that's why we have them here. That's why they're the professionals. Like it was like, because that's when it all got real. And I was like, okay, this is a lot for me right now. Like, I'm here, but I'm like, this is where it's all really turning on. And it's like, they were just like, everything's going how it should. We're okay. You're doing great. And then you got like a second win. That's when you're okay, let's go. Then it all started. And I mean, I pushed for a while. So when I started having that fetal ejection reflex and I'm like, what's happening? Yeah. My midwife says, work with what your body's giving you. Mm-hmm. If you want to bear down with those contractions, bear down with them. Work with what your body's giving you. Mm-hmm. And so I did. And to be honest, I mean, if we look at the timeline, which is crazy, it was 9:30 when my water broke. 10:05, I started pushing, and I pushed until 11:20.
Yeah.
And it turns out that I was only at an 8. So I was only at an 8 centimeters, but my body was trying to push him out, which was crazy because, again, it was about his position. His hands were on his face. But this is the moment when I knew I needed to get out of the tub. I think we were all kind of like, okay, the tub is slowing me down.
Yeah.
And I need to actually squat, and I need to get in a position where I can get him out.
And even our midwife, I don't remember if she told us both at the same time, but she did tell me, she said, there's not enough water in the tub for you to even have the birth in the tub at that time. Like it was like
we would have needed to go get more water.
Yeah, so she's like, this is the time we should, get out. And that's when it
wasn't high enough. It needed to be a certain height. And that's another thing too. Your midwife knows all that stuff.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about it. You're there for the ride, and you're in your body. They're taking care of all those details. So I remember getting onto the toilet, and I just remember like it was so intense. And then that's when I got into the shower. We were in the shower for a bit, and I think that was around noon. And then we got into my bedroom. So we went to the bedroom, and this is where it all happened. So I remember we go into out of the bathroom. I'm freezing. I'm like, dry me off.
Yeah.
And it just felt like it was game time. I just had this intuitive feeling. I'm like, I'm going to meet my baby. I'm going to cry.
I remember that. You were like, this is it. I mean, you even said that. You're like, we're going to meet him like this. I mean, obviously we didn't know it was a boy yet, but he was like,
I knew it was a boy. We both knew.
Yeah.
We both like had this intuitive feeling. We just knew. It was like, I'm having a boy.
Yeah.
I'm like, literally like, it's the craziest thing. So anywho, we get out of the tub, we get out of the shower, we get into our bedroom, and I'm on all fours. And we had thought you were going to like catch the baby.
Yeah.
But in that moment,
we planned that. We're like, all right,
you catch the baby, which is crazy now to think about it. But I didn't want you to leave my side. And I literally, I'm on all fours. You are sitting in front of me. Your legs past me. Yeah. Like, so you're like in a V.
Yeah.
And my hands are digging
you were like
into your quads.
Into the top of my quad for like 90 minutes. I was like,
you literally
dealt
with me.
I had like nail marks in my skin.
You dealt with me literally beating the shit out of you.
But I was like, this is it. I can do this.
And I was
like, this is fine. Like
grabbing onto your shoulders, on your neck.
Yep.
Because I was like holding on to you
Yeah.
with each surge and with each push. I mean, that's so crazy. We have this whole thing on video, and you can like see me just like beating the shit out of you, and you were just like, "You're doing it.
Yeah,
you're doing great."
Yeah, dude, and then it was funny because like even right up before that, before we got into that position, I remember they were like, "Are you okay? Do you need anything? How are you?" I'm like, dude, I'm fine. I'm not giving birth. I'm good.
I don't have a vagina.
I'm like, make sure she's good. Like I am fine. Yeah.
Well, you didn't even bat an eye. So I didn't, if you were uncomfortable, I would have never known. And honestly, I was in my own world anyway. So I was just so like in it.
Well, and it's like, you have so much adrenaline, like in that moment. You're so like dialed in that like.
So much.
Yeah.
And that's the point too. I remember they were giving me spoonfuls of honey, and they were like, okay, you haven't eaten anything. Like it's been a long, and at this point, again, it's noon the next day. So we're going on a lot of time without me eating. I'd thrown up a ton.
Yeah.
But I got so much energy. I got this crazy surge of energy. It was the oxytocin that literally made me feel high. I felt like the only way I can describe it is and I'm not a runner, but when you are like working out, maybe you're running and it's that last, half a mile, or surge. It's the final stretch.
Yeah.
It's like your body just turns on this new level of endorphins and this new level, like it's the oxytocin in my body that was literally making me feel like I'm like, dun, 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 dun. Like literally that's how it felt in my mind.
Michael Scott.
Can we play? Yeah, I was Michael Scott. Can we play that song as a background right now? Like I was literally like,
home stretch.
I was literally, I could see it.
You like freaked me out with it because I was like, I felt like I was getting tired, and
I was like, snap out of it,
like,
bitch.
We're almost there. We're almost there. And I'm like, okay, we're almost there, guys. Let's go.
I could feel it. And then that was when they started to see him crown. And they started to see all this hair, and I'm crowning. And they talk about the ring of fire. And everyone's like, did you feel a ring of fire? I'm like, I don't remember.
Well,
I don't even remember.
Even touching back to like, was it painful? I think in these moments, it was just the intensity of everything.
But I was like so high that I didn't even feel it.
Well, and it was funny because where we were positioned, how we were set up, because I was like, I want to catch him because I want to see him come out. Like I know some guys don't want to see.
You could.
Well, I could only see like the back. So as soon as like his head really started coming out, I was like, you were grabbing onto me. I was like looking at the mirror and I was like, oh my God, like he's coming out.
Like there's his head. Holy shit, how is this even possible?
It's like, oh my God.
Anatomically, I'm like, how did that come out of that? It doesn't even make any sense. It's insane. But literally, yeah, it's like unbeknownst to me, you can like basically see everything through the mirror. And I'm just like, I'm getting him out. But so this is what happens. So then my midwife, I don't know this, but my midwife is like, she's seeing that he's crowning with both hands.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a potential disaster for your vagina because I'm like, I don't want to tear open and like have a 3rd-degree tear. And so what they actually did was like, they kind of like moved his hands away so that his head just could crown. And then last minute they were like, we don't want to have any like shoulder dystocia type of thing. So they moved me into this like runner's ledge position. I remember my nurse was like, I want you in 3 seconds, I'm going to count to 3. You're going to move your knee up. And I was like, there is no effing way that my knee is going anywhere. I was like, there's no physical possibility of me doing anything other than what I'm doing right now. I'm trying my best. And she literally like grabs my knee and brings it up. And I'm in this runner's position. And it was like he just literally slid out. Yep. It was the craziest thing. And then he slid out. And there was a brief moment where like, you know, there's a second that happens. It's like this thin veil between heaven and earth that the baby crosses. And, you know, they're getting all of their oxygen from their cord. And, you know, we did a very delayed cord clamping. So he's getting all of that, but there's no cry right away. Mm-hmm. And so that was like almost like you think that you're going to hear him right away. So I remember just being in this moment, like I was like in another world. And I just remember like coming to earth. And then because I heard him cry. Yeah. And I remember hearing him cry and it being like, it like kind of brought me back down and into my body. I'm like, like it happened. He's here. Next thing I know, because I'm on all fours, they're passing him to me through my legs and they don't say, you know, it's a boy or a girl. And then I look at him and we look at him. We're like, it's a boy. And I look at you and you just
immediately
wept.
I was just gone. It was
sobbed.
Just cried so hard. It was just like, I think seeing that or even like going back like 5 minutes when he came out, remember he like didn't start breathing at all yet. Like it was like,
well, yeah, it's that,
but there was that panic moment. Cause she came up after and she was like, thank you so much for having the confidence like in us to I mean,
she's delivered thousands of babies, you know? And
but when she said that, I was like, oh my God.
Well, you know? They have a protocol. They have a protocol to follow. Like if there is a specific, and that's something to know. It's like your midwife knows how, and your midwife, actually, midwives are even more trained in birth than most doctors in a hospital are. And how many hours they go to understand everything about not only just birth, but also baby. And so between her and the nurse, they have a specific like language. They were on it. And they have a protocol. So if there is not an immediate, they're like, oh, well, we need to have a, and it's precautionary. Yes. And so even though it was literally a split second, it was probably 20 seconds. Yeah. You know, they're just like bringing baby to earth. He, you know, once he finally cried, we were all just like, he's here.
And that's
it's like that was the arrival.
They passed him like, and it was like, that's when I was like, I just started bawling. It was like all over. It's funny because I remember everything. And then once I started crying, I don't even really remember like after that. Because I know then
you were in a blur.
I remember then it was time to get up off the floor.
And your legs were, like, you had 2 dead legs because I beat the shit out of you.
I was like, I can't stand up. I can't get up. But
I'm pretty sure you had like 2 giant bruises.
I did. And around the back of my neck, I had some too.
It's like you kind of exhaled finally. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, the feeling of when you finally give birth, your body is surging with oxytocin. So I literally felt a whole new wave of high. Yeah. Just a high that I can't even describe it in a way that I actually can't wait to give birth again because I can't wait to feel that high again because that is just, it's the best feeling in the world. And that is a gift that physiological birth can give you. Yeah. And what they do, they get us all ready. And when I say ready, they basically wrap us up in blankets, get me into my bed, get me all comfortable. And then I birthed the placenta in bed. And even in that moment too, they're watching for blood. They're making sure there's not going to be any excess blood. Yeah. So they have Pitocin on hand or anything in case I were to hemorrhage. So they have all of that. They even had the Pitocin ready in case I were to hemorrhage. So they're on it. But what they do, and then they're going to check my vitals. They check baby's vitals. And then really what you do is you get to spend the next hour just completely undisturbed. As long as everyone's good, all the vitals are good, they cozy us up and they start cleaning everything up. And that's a question I get a lot from people too is, well, isn't it messy? I don't want my house a mess. I'm like, I want you to know I gave birth on a white carpet. A white freaking carpet. We don't have that white carpet anymore, not because of my birth, but because of my child. Yeah. Because once Dawson came and, stuff everywhere. But I gave birth on a white carpet, and after birth, you wouldn't have even known anything happened. Everything's cleaned up. They do your laundry. They're prepping meals for you. They're making sure that you're nourished. They're getting us hydrated. They're checking vitals again. They're checking baby's heartbeat. They're checking breathing. They're doing all of that. I'm working on latching, all that stuff. And so they're doing everything while you are just cozy in your bed. And that's the best feeling ever. That hour, 1 hour is
that hour was like the most special time ever. Like looking at moments in my life, like that 1 hour of just like us three laying there, like, cause
core
it was
memory.
Like, yeah.
It's like, we're like, hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
We had a nickname for him the whole time. When I was pregnant, we called him Chooch.
Chooch. No, it's Chooch. Yes.
We had producer Christy here is so invested in this. She's shouting out. She's shouting out Chooch. We named him Chooch because we wanted to keep the gender surprise, which I've always I've gone back and forth with asking you. I'm like, would you do that again? 100%. I would do that again. Waiting to find out who you're meeting. It feels like Christmas morning times 1,000. It's literally like that feeling that you felt when you were like 7 years old and you were so excited to go downstairs to see what was under the Christmas tree. It's that, but you're an adult. When do you ever get that feeling as an adult? Ever? Like hardly ever.
Dude.
That's what that feels like. So waiting to find out gender is so special. But because we didn't know who he was, we gave him a nickname. We called him Chooch, which you can say what that is.
Chooch is we're from outside of Philadelphia. Big Philadelphia Phillies fan. So when we won our World Series in 2008, Carlos Ruiz, one of my favorite players from the team, he was our catcher, and his nickname was Chooch. So anytime he got up to the plate, whole crowd, Chooch, and it just stuck, and I was like, I'm calling him Chooch. So and
we never called him Chooch again once he was born.
Once he was born, we never called him Chooch again, but that was it. And everyone knew it was Chooch. Everyone was like, how's Chooch? And
I'm like, what
I can't believe we nicknamed him Chooch.
Oh my gosh, nothing will beat that. No, that's truly legend.
I can't wait for the next kid now. It's
you gotta find something just as hilarious. One day we'll tell him, by the way, when you were in mom's belly,
you were Chooch.
You were Chooch, dude.
That's right.
So we're just meeting Chooch for the first time. We're like, look at you. You're so cute. He had big eyes. He was so awake and his eyes were wide open. He was just taking it all in. Yep. Had blue eyes and all this hair, and it was so wild. And then you clipped the cord. Mm-hmm. So we did the cord clamping, and then we clipped it and put on his first diaper. And
I did it, by the way.
You did it.
I put on his very first diaper. First diaper I've ever changed in my life. And I was like, I got it. I don't even know what I'm doing. Let's just do it.
And you did it.
I did it.
And you also changed his first poop diaper.
I did. Oof, those newborn poops.
Man.
Black.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready.
You were not ready for the meconium.
I was like, oh my God.
It's crazy. So it was the most beautiful experience. And I think the most beautiful part about it was, for me, it was seeing everything that my body went through. Yeah. And it was hard. It was a 16-hour labor. So it was hard. And there was moments where I wanted to run away from my body and just get away from that feeling. But I had to be in the pain cave, and I had to. And there's people who are like, oh, there's no award, there's no trophy. And it's like, I wasn't doing it for a trophy. I wasn't doing a home birth for a trophy. I was doing it because that felt the most safe for me and for my baby. And to be honest, the high that you feel, the bliss that you feel is over. I forget it all. I don't even, yes, I know mentally that it was hard. I remember the mental. I don't remember the physical. I don't remember any of it because the oxytocin literally washes that away. And I felt so proud of myself and so proud of my baby. And he came out with this big freaking cone head because the kid had his hands on his face like a total turd. But he made it hard. He made it a challenge. My first birth was not by any means easy, but my body knew what to do and my baby knew what to do. And we trusted that. And it all went beautifully. And I truly can say I had the birth of my dreams that I wanted. No,
it was amazing. And I think just to kind of wrap it up, it's like, I think seeing you go through that, and I think just women in general, like that part that you guys get to experience, that was like, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And then also like, it's probably the most empowering thing I've ever seen you do. And just like seeing you after now, like before and after, Erika, it's like, I think you can handle literally anything like that, going through that war you went through. And like when women go through that, it's like, what can't you handle like that, you know? And I think it just shows you what your capacity is and all these different things. And it's like, it really is such a beautiful experience.
Yeah, so, it is. Yeah. It is. And to anyone who's listening, you know, maybe you had the birth of your dreams or maybe you didn't. It doesn't make you any less of a woman. It doesn't make you any less of a warrior. The fact that you carried a baby, you created a baby, and you birthed a baby, however that looked, like you were a warrior mama. And you know, I'm so grateful that my birth went the way that I wanted to. I know that it could have not, and I still would be grateful for what my body did. But I do think that for anyone who is maybe wanting a redeeming birth or wanting the birth that they really dream of, you're capable. You are so capable. You're so strong. And I do think having the right team in your back corner is really key and pivotal, because I felt in those moments where I felt weak, my team made me feel strong. And you guys reminded me of what I was capable of and reminded me of what I knew I could do already. Like you already know you can do this, Erika. And you would all just remind me of that in those deep, dark night of the soul. Like it was a transformation. And that's something too that I'll never forget is you go in, you know, this maiden, and you come out this warrior, and you really are transformed. And I feel like I can truly accomplish anything. Sometimes I'll be working out with my trainer and I'm like, ugh, like this feels like, Erika, shut up. You had a birth. You gave birth. You can do this. You're fine. But it's truly so special. So I hope this was inspiring and helpful to anyone who listened. And if you have a birth story you want to share, would love to have you come over on Instagram, whatever it looked like. I'd love to celebrate you. So come over to the Trust Issues podcast and let me know. Share your story with us. We'd love to hear it.